Good day. So for this video, we will discuss about depreciation. Now, as defined, depreciation is the systematic allocation of the depreciable amount of an asset over the useful life. Property, plant, and equipment, except land, normally are usable for a number of years after which the assets have relatively little value either for service or for sale. The difference between the original cost of a property and any remaining value when it is retired or worn out is an expense that should be distributed to the periods during which the asset is used. The portion that is allocated to expense in a particular period is referred to by three different terms: depreciation, depletion, or amortization. The three terms are similar in meaning. The only difference lies in the type of asset involved. Now, for the depreciation, it involves the property, plant, and equipment, just like the land, building, and machinery. For the depletion, it refers to the wasting assets, such as the oil, the minerals, and so forth. And amortization refers to intangible asset. Now, depreciation is not so much a matter of valuation as it is a matter of cost allocation in recognition of the exhaustion of the useful life of an item of property, plant, and equipment. The objective of depreciation is to have each period benefiting from the use of the asset bear an equitable share of the asset cost. So the concept of depreciation is that since property, plant, and equipment is used for a couple of years, for a number of years, so those years benefits are benefited by the use of this property, plant, and equipment. Now, it is also very inequitable if whenever we purchase a property and then we are to expense it immediately upon the acquisition, because of course that property is still to be used for more than one period. So this only means that even the succeeding periods may also benefit the property. So that is why upon the acquisition of such property, we are to record it first as an asset, and then over the years, over the periods, it is to be expensed in the form of depreciation. Okay, that is why we have depreciation. So depreciation is actually an expense. So of course, whenever we compute the depreciation or whenever we allocate depreciation to a particular property, we are to record an expense. Now, when does the depreciation of a property starts? Now, the depreciation of an asset begins when it is available for use. That means when the asset is in the location and condition necessary for it to be capable of operating in the manner intended by management. So, say for example, if you purchase an asset on January 1, but it is still to be shipped from the other place to your location, so it took 1 month for it to be shipped. Now, your property arrived on February 1. And the question is, when will you start depreciating the asset? Since accordingly, we are to start it when it is already available for use, then we will depreciate it starting February 1. Okay, because that is the day when the asset is already in the location and condition necessary for it to be capable of operating. Now, how about in the case of, let's say, a building that is constructed for 6 months? So we started constructing on January 1 and then it ended on June 30. Now, when will we start depreciating the building? That will be on June 30, when the asset was already available for use. So that is when are we to start depreciating an asset. Now, what are the kinds of depreciation? So actually, there are two kinds of depreciation, namely the physical depreciation and functional or economic depreciation. So accordingly, the physical depreciation is related to assets wear and tear and deterioration over a period. It is caused by wear and tear due to frequent use, passage of time due to non-use, action of elements, accidents, and disease. Okay, so we call it physical depreciation if it is due to wear and tear. So it may be destroyed. Okay, and passage of time. So although you didn't use it, but it becomes older and older because you have already purchased it like for many years ago, just like that. So it can also be depreciated. Also with the action of elements, so due to the weather, due to the heat of the sunlight. Okay, so those are physical depreciation. But when we say functional or economic depreciation, it arises from obsolescence or inadequacy of the asset to perform efficiently. Obsolescence arises when there is no future demand for the product which the depreciable asset produces. So this is the case where such asset becomes obsolete. So this means that there are already other machines that can be substituted to such assets. So even though the asset is still working, but a new machine was developed, a new machine was introduced, and it can be more efficient compared to the asset that you are currently having. So it becomes obsolete, and so therefore it is also a factor of depreciating an asset. Okay, now, okay, of course, we also have here the factors to be considered in determining the useful life of the asset because since at the very beginning of the period where the asset was acquired, we are to estimate on its useful life as to how long will it take for that asset before it cannot be useful already. Okay, so here we have the expected usage or the expected capacity. So let's say for example a machine. So most machines, or I guess all machines, have their maximum capacity. So just like the printer. So as we all know, a printer has its maximum capacity. So let's say that it can only print about 2,000 copies. So 1,200 for the black and white and 800 for the color. So that is the maximum capacity of the printer. So after the printer um after the printer produces already the maximum amount of 2,000, then it cannot print already. So that means that if ever that printer can never be used, if ever, okay, this is just an assumption. So if ever after making the 2,000 copies, the printer cannot be used, then that only means that that printer was already fully depreciated. Okay, because it is already at its maximum capacity. Then we have expected physical wear and tear. So that is operational factors, repair and maintenance program. We have obsolescence, that is change in market demand, and of course the legal limits, expiry date of the related lease. Okay, now for the methods of depreciation, we have the uniform, we have the equal or uniform, so that is the straight line, the composite, and the group method. So this is where um, the depreciation of the asset every year is only the same in amount. Okay, so let's say for example for 5 years, so the amount of depreciation is just the same. Okay, because it is uniform. Then we have variable charge. So since it is variable, so it varies, right? So it may vary on the working hours or the service hours, or it may vary on the output. So just like what I've said about the printer, so if there is a maximum capacity of the printer, so the number of units that we have already printed will be the basis for the depreciation. Okay, and for the working hours, that is as to the how many hours was the machine, we are to consider how many hours will the machine work and how many hours has the machine already worked. Okay, so those that are hours that are already consumed by the machine versus the total hours that can be consumed by the machine. And then we have decreasing charge or accelerated or diminishing balance. So we have the sum of years digits, declining balance, and double declining balance. Okay, so and this type of depreciation, so the first year is usually higher in amount compared to the succeeding years. So the concept also of this type of depreciation is that the property is really more efficient, it is really more effective at the beginning of the year or when it is still new. Unlike If it is already 5 years old, so it will become less efficient already. So that's why it is just equitable if during the fifth year, the amount of depreciation will already become lesser compared to the depreciation when the machine or the property is still new. And the last one, we have other methods. We have inventory appraisal, retirement method, and replacement method. Okay, so actually depreciation is just short. Okay, so the concept is only short, but what will take us too long here is because there are a lot of methods of depreciating an asset. So we are to learn every method of depreciation. Okay, now to start, let us have our problem solving. Okay, to start with the application. Okay, we have our first illustration, Lem Company. Question: what amount should be reported as depreciation for the current year? At the beginning of current year, Lam Company bought a machinery under a contract that required a down payment of 100,000 plus 24 monthly payments of 50,000 each for total cash payments of 1,300,000. The cash price of the machinery was 1,100,000. The machinery has a useful life of 10 years and residual value of 50,000 pesos. The entity used straight line depreciation. So the first question is, how much or what amount should be reported as depreciation for the current year? So, in order for us to get the depreciation, so this is the formula. Okay, we have depreciation expense is the cost of the asset less any salvage value divided by, okay, that is over the useful life of the asset. Okay, so over the useful life. Okay, so this is the formula for the straight line depreciation. So I know that you already know how to compute the straight line depreciation because of course that is a basic accounting topic. Now for this problem, we are to determine the cost and then less any salvage value. Okay, or in other words, that is the residual value. Now, we have here depreciation of, okay, so this amounts to the cost. So first, let us determine how much is really the cost. Now, as you can see, we have here a down payment of 100,000 plus 24 monthly payments of 50,000. So how much is that? 50,000 pesos multiplied by 24, and that is 1,200,000 plus the 100,000 down payment. So in total, that is 1,300,000. But apart from this, we also have here the cash price of the machinery. Now take note, class, as what we have always discussed, as what we have always repeatedly illustrated, discussed, explained, we should always use the cash price because again, the asset or the PPE must be recorded at its fair value at the time of acquisition. So, what is the fair value at the time of acquisition? So, that is the cash price. So, actually, um, since it is to be paid by installment, so the 1,300,000 is only the installment price, and any difference between the cash price and the installment price will serve as our interest. So, this means that of the 1,300,000, 1,100,000 is only the cost of the machinery, while the 200,000 is just the interest. So that is why we are only to consider the 1,100,000 minus the salvage value. Accordingly, the machinery has a residual value of 50,000 pesos and divided by the useful life of 10 years. Okay, so this is 1,100,000 minus 50,000 and divided by 10 years, and that is 105,000 pesos. So that is letter A. Okay, the answer for the depreciation is letter A. Alright, so I know that straight line depreciation is really easy, and I know also that all the other methods of depreciation will find you easier to answer. Okay, so that is for the lamp company. Now let's proceed to the next problem. Po company. Question: what amount of gain on disposal should be recorded in 2017? Okay, so we are to record the gain of disposal. So this means that the asset was disposed, or in other words, the asset was sold. So it may be before it was fully depreciated or during the time when the machine is not yet depreciated. Now, Poe Company disclosed that the depreciation policy on machinery is as follows. First, a full year depreciation is taken in the year of acquisition. So this means, class, that whether the company has purchased the machinery at the beginning of the year or at the middle of the year, so it will still have a full year depreciation. Okay, so let's say for example, the entity purchased the machine on June 1. So on December 31, that is still 6 months. But as a company rule or as a company policy, even though we purchase it 6 months or whatever, so long as it is the year of acquisition, then we are to have a full year depreciation. Now next, no depreciation is taken in the year of disposition. So of course, class, during the last year of the asset, okay, so the asset was still useful. But according to the company policy again, that when it is already the last year of the asset or the year of disposition of the asset, then no depreciation will be recorded. And then the third one is the estimated useful life is 5 years and the straight line method is used. Now question. On June 30, 2017, the entity sold for 2,300,000 a machine acquired in 2014 for 4,200,000. The residual value was 600,000. So how much will be recorded as gain on disposal? So of course, class, the gain or loss is to be computed by deducting the selling price minus the carrying amount of the asset. Okay? So of course, we already have the given selling price in which the entity was in which the machinery was sold for 2,300,000. So the problem here now is how much is our carrying amount. So what is the computation of the carrying amount? So that would be the cost less any accumulated depreciation. Alright? So for the cost, we have 4,200,000. So the entity acquired this one on 2014. Okay? And then how much is our accumulated depreciation? So, since the entity acquired it during 2014, so we have 4,200,000 less the residual value of 600,000 and then divided by the number of years. So that has a useful life of 5 years and then multiplied by how many years ago was the machinery purchased. So since it was purchased on 2014, so we have to take a full year depreciation on 2014, then on 2015, and on 2016. Now take note, company policy, no depreciation is taken in the year of disposition. So there will be no depreciation anymore during 2017. So our depreciation now is only for 3 years. Okay? So how much is the total amount of our depreciation? So to compute again, we have 4,200,000 minus the residual value of 600,000 divided by 5 years and then multiplied by 3 years. So our depreciation now is 2,160,000. Okay, so we can now get the carrying amount. So for the carrying amount, that is the cost minus the accumulated depreciation. So we have carrying amount of 2,400,000. And of course, the sale price is 2,300,000. So sale price minus the carrying amount, that is the gain or loss on disposal. Now class, since the machinery was sold for 2,300,000 and the carrying amount is only 2,040,000, therefore this means that there is a gain on disposal amounting to 260,000. Okay? So gain on disposal of 260,000, and that is letter B. Okay, that is letter B. Alright? Now, let's proceed. Lester Company. Question. What is the composite life of the assets and what is the composite rate of depreciation? Okay. Now class, the composite method is used when there are, let's say, there are different machines or there are different assets in each type of asset. So let's say for example, in this example, there are three machines, but they're only under the machines, right? They all fall under machineries. Now since in this case there are a lot of machines, so it would be very impractical if we are to we are to depreciate them individually. So just like to consider how much is the cost of machine A, machine B, machine C. So how much more if there are 10 or more machines? So that would be very difficult for us to do the, let's say, the usual one, which is the straight line method, because we still have to determine each cost of the machine. So that's why we have the composite method of depreciating the machines, in which case we are only to compute for the composite life, since we have different the machines have their different estimated life, right? We have 20, 15, and 5. So we are to compute for the composite life, and based on that composite life we are to compute the composite rate of such machinery and then compute the depreciation. Now, how do we compute for the composite life? So we will consider first the cost of the machines. So we have machine A, machine B, and machine C. For machine A, that is 5,500,000. machine B, we have 2 million pesos. And machine C, we have 400,000. Now, for the residual value, we have 500,000 for machine A and 200,000 for machine B. And then the depreciable amount. So what is the depreciable amount? So depreciable amount is computed by cost minus residual value. So this is 5,500,000 minus 500,000, and then 2,000,000 minus 200,000. And for machine C, there is no residual value, so the depreciable amount is still 400,000. And then let's consider the life of each machine. For machine A, we have 20, machine B 5, and machine B 15, and machine C 5. So what are we gonna do is to compute for their annual depreciation. So in case if ever these machines are to be depreciated individually, how much is their annual depreciation using the straight line method? So we have the depreciable amount, so this is already net of the residual value divided by the life of each machine. So the annual depreciation of machine A, we have 250,000. For machine B, 120,000, and for machine C, we have 80,000 pesos. And then, since that's what I've said, we are going to compute for the composite life of each machine. So, how do we compute for the composite life? So that would only be the total depreciable amount divided by their total annual depreciation. For the depreciable amount, we have 5 million plus 1,800,000 plus 400. And for the depreciation, we have 250 plus 150 plus 80,000. So we have 7,200,000 and 450. So how much is our composite life? For the composite life, the depreciable amount is 7,200,000 divided by our annual total annual depreciation of 450,000. So how much is the composite life? 7,200,000 divided by 450,000, and so therefore the composite life of all the machines is 16 years. Okay, so after this one, we are then going to compute for the composite rate. Okay, so what is this composite rate? So composite rate is computed by the total annual depreciation over their total cost. Okay, so for the total annual depreciation, we have 7,200,000 divided by the total cost of, okay, let me just compute it first. 5 plus 2 million plus 400,000, that is 7,900,000. So the composite rate of the machine is, okay, that is, okay, let me just check. Total annual depreciation of 450 divided by the total cost of 7,900,000. Alright, so the composite rate now is 6%. Okay, this is the composite rate of the machine. Now the questions are, what is the composite life of the asset and what is the composite rate of depreciation? So the composite rate of depreciation, according to our computation, so that is 5.70%, and that is letter B. While for the composite life class, we have here 16 years. Okay, that is 16 years. Now, what is the use of this composite life and composite rate? So take note, you don't need to compute both of the composite life and the composite rate for you to solve for the depreciation of the machine or solve for the annual depreciation of all the machines. So you just only need one. So you may use the composite life or you may use the composite rate. So class, if you are to use the composite life, then to compute for the annual depreciation of the machines, so that would be the total cost. So just like how we solve the straight line method, right? So for the depreciation, let's say depreciation of year 1. So that would be the total cost divided by the composite life. Okay? Total cost less the residual value divided by the composite life. So how much is the total cost less residual value? So that is the depreciable amount, right? So 7,200,000 divided by the composite life of 16 years. So how much is our depreciation for the first year? Okay, so we have 7,200,000 divided by 16, that is 450,000. We're going to use the composite life. Now, how about if you're going to use the composite rate? So that would only be the depreciation equals the depreciable amount multiplied by, sorry, not the depreciable amount, but the total cost multiplied by the composite rate. Okay, so we have total cost of 7,900,000 multiplied by the composite rate of 5.70%. Okay, and then we got 450,300. So, if you notice, this is not really equal if we are to use the composite life because of course we rounded off our composite rate. But class, if we are really to use the full amount of the composite rate, we will get 450,000 and that is just the same if we are to use the composite life. Okay, so the difference of 300,000 is only because we rounded off the 5.70% here. But any method that you use, you will still get the same answer. Okay, so that is how we compute for the composite method of depreciation. Now, take note that um, the composite method of depreciation uh, is an equal or uniform method of depreciation. So, therefore, whatever you get here, this will already be the amount of depreciation that we are going to record for the whole 16 years. Okay? So, what is with composite life? So, it makes us composite method, it makes us easier to record depreciation because since all the machines were considered to have useful life of 16 years, so we don't need to really individually identify each useful life of the machine for us to know whether we are still to record depreciation in this one or has this another machine has already been fully depreciated. So using the composite method, they're all to be uniformly depreciated for 16 years. Okay, and the amount that we get is already the total amount for all the machineries. Okay, so there will be no problem as to the recognition. It will be much easier for us to record the depreciation of the machineries. Okay, so that is for Lester Company. Now let's proceed to the next. We have Hamilton Company. Question: what is the useful life of the building? Hamilton Company provided the following information at year end. Building, we have 25 during 2016, but on 2017, it is still 25. For the accumulated depreciation in 2016, that is 3,875, and in 2017, that is 5 million. So, of course, there was a depreciation expense that was added during the year 2017. The straight line method of depreciation is used. The residual value is 10% of asset cost. Now, what is the useful life of the building? So, for this problem, we're just to work back. Okay, since the accumulated depreciation was already given, then we have to compute for the depreciation expense during the year. Okay, and using the depreciation expense and then using the cost and the residual value, then we can already get the useful life of the asset. Now, to compute for the annual depreciation, so of course, we have to consider the accumulated depreciation at the end of 2017 and the accumulated depreciation at the end of 2016. So, for 2017, we have 5 million. And for 2016, we have 3,875,000. So how much is the difference? That is 5 million minus 3,875. We have 1,125,000. And this serves as our annual depreciation. Okay. So by this time, if the total cost of the building is 25 million, and every year you are to depreciate it for 1,125,000, and so how much would be the, or how many is the useful life of, how many years is the useful life of the asset? So the cost of the building divided by the annual depreciation, so therefore we have to depreciate it for 20 years. Okay, for this problem the useful life is 20 years. Okay, so it is really short to answer. So actually, depreciation is only not really that difficult compared to the other topics. So what you're just gonna do with depreciation is that of course you already know how to depreciate the straight line method and the other method. So you just have to master the process of depreciating, especially those the variable method or the sum of the year's digits method, the double declining balance method. So you just have to master how to depreciate such assets. Okay, that is for Hamilton Company. Now let's proceed to the next. We have Narain Company. Questions. Number 1. What is the depreciation for 2016 and what is the gain or loss from the derecognition of the asset on December 31, 2016? The Ring Company used the composite method of depreciation based on a composite rate of 25%. So what are we gonna do is just to simply multiply the 25% by the total cost of the property. At the beginning of 2016, the total cost of equipment was 5 million with a residual value of 600,000 and accumulated depreciation of 3 million. In January 2016, the entity purchased an equipment for 2,500,000 with no residual value. At the end of 2016, the entity sold an equipment with an original cost of 1 million and a residual value of 200,000 for 350,000. This asset was acquired on January 1, 2014. So question at the end of 2016, what is our depreciation? Okay. So class, since we are using a composite method, so all of our equipment must be depreciated by just multiplying it to the composite rate of 25%. Now, as what we've discussed earlier, to compute for the annual depreciation, we just have to multiply the total cost multiplied by the composite rate. Now, since the composite rate is already given, what are we gonna do is just to compute how much is the total cost of our assets. Okay? Now, let's see. At the beginning of 2016, the total cost of equipment was 5 million. Now, take note, class, that this is still the total cost at the beginning of 2016. Now, since during the year, there are assets that were already sold, so this 5 million pesos is still not our basis. Okay, we still have to consider any purchases during the year or any disposition during the year because in January 1, 2016, the entity purchased an equipment with an equipment for 2,500,000 with no residual value. So how much is our cost of new equipment? That is 2,500,000. And the next one is to consider the cost of the asset sold. So take note class, we are to find the cost on December 31, 2016. So of course, since during the year there were new purchases and new disposition, so we will consider the cost of these purchases and disposition. So for the asset that was sold, the cost is, now at the end of 2016, the entity sold an equipment with an original cost of 1 million and a residual value of 200,000. So the cost of such asset is 1 million pesos. So to compute for the total cost, we have 5 million plus 25 minus 1 million, that is 6,500,000. Simply multiply by our composite rate of 25%. So we will have 6,500,000 multiplied by 20%, that is 1,625,000. So this is the depreciation for 2016. 1,625,000. Now next, number 2. What is the gain or loss from the derecognition of the asset on December 31, 2016? So, of course, to compute the gain or loss, that would be the selling price minus the carrying amount. Now, accordingly, the entity sold an equipment with an original cost of 1 million and residual value of 350,000. So, therefore, the selling price of the disposition is 350,000. We have 350,000 minus the carrying amount. So, how much is the carrying amount of this asset? Since the asset was purchased for 1 million pesos, and then there is a residual value of 200,000, and then it was acquired on January 1, 2014. So, how many years was the asset, or how many years since the asset was purchased? So that is 2014, 2015, then 2016. So there would be a 3-year depreciation. So 1 million minus 200,000. So that is 800,000, right? 800,000 divided by the number of years. Okay? Oh, sorry. There is no number of years because this is the composite method. Okay, so what are we gonna do is just to simply multiply 1 million multiplied by 25%. And now, since the equipment is 3 years old, so times 3 years. Okay, so 1 million. Okay, we have 1 million multiplied by 25% multiplied by 3. Okay, so 75,000 is our depreciation, right? Accumulated depreciation. But we still have to deduct this one from the cost. Cost of 1 million minus the accumulated depreciation of 75,000. Then we have carrying amount of 925,000. Okay, let me just check because there could be a mistake. So there is a mistake with regards to the computation of the annual depreciation. Okay, let us compute it again. For the annual depreciation, we have 1 million. We have 1 million multiplied by 25% multiplied by 3 years. So that should be 750,000. Okay, so for the carrying amount, we have 1 million minus 750,000. So we have carrying amount of 250,000. Okay, so 350 minus 250,000. So we get 100,000 gain on disposal. Alright, 100,000 gain on disposal. Alright, so that is letter A. Okay, so how did we get the carrying amount again? So that would be the 1 million minus the accumulated depreciation. So just take a look at this formula. Alright, so that is for the Rain Company. Now let's proceed to the next. Okay, next we have Jade Company. Question. What is the total depreciation for 2016? Jade Company acquired in a new milling machine on April 1, 2010. The machine has a special component that required replacement before the end of the useful life. The asset was originally recorded in two accounts, one representing the main unit and the other for the special component. Depreciation is recorded by the straight line method and residual value is disregarded. On April 1, 2016, the special component is scrapped and is replaced with a similar component. This new component is expected to have a residual value of approximately 20% of cost at the end of the useful life of the main unit. And because of materiality, the residual value will be considered in calculating depreciation. Okay, first we have the main milling machine purchased on 2010, residual value 100, estimated useful life is 10 years. For the first special component, we have purchase price of 1,200,000, residual value of 60,000, and estimated useful life of 6 years. And for the second component, we have purchase price of 2,000,000 and residual value that is 20%. Accordingly, that is 20% of the cost. So that is 400,000. So what is the total depreciation for 2016? So class, let us start with our main milling machine. So for the main milling machine, we have purchase price of 75, residual value of 100, and estimated useful life of 10 years. But class, take note of this one. Depreciation is recorded by the straight line method and residual value is disregarded. So therefore, in computing for the main milling machine, we have to disregard its residual value. So therefore, the depreciation of such machine would now be simply 750,000 divided by 10 years. Okay, so how much is that? 750,000 divided by 10, that is 75,000. Okay, that is for the main component. While for the first component, okay, so let us read it again. Okay, so the machine has a special component that required replacement before the end of the useful life. The asset was originally recorded in two accounts, one representing the main unit and the other for the special component. Depreciation is recorded by the straight line method and residual value is disregarded. So for this paragraph, it contains the main milling machine and the first component information. Now, accordingly, since the residual value is still disregarded, so we simply have to divide this one directly. So, for the first special component, the purchase price is 1,200,000 and then simply divide it by 6 years. Okay? Divided by 6 years. But take note, class, that on April 1, 2016, this special component was already scrapped and is replaced by a new one. So, therefore, the depreciation for 2016 of the first component is not for the whole year of 2016 because accordingly it was disposed on April 1, 2016. So how many months was this component used during 2016? So since we disposed it on April 1, so it was just used from January 1 to March 31, and that is for 3 months. So we have to multiply it by 3 over 12 as the fraction for our depreciation. Okay, so we have 1,200,000 divided by 6 multiplied by 3 over 12. So we have 50,000 pesos for the first component. And next, for the second component, okay, this new component is expected to have a residual value of 20% of cost at the end of useful life. And because of materiality, the residual value will be considered in calculating depreciation. Okay, so accordingly, the residual value was material. So we have to consider it in calculating depreciation. So we have purchase price of 2 million minus the residual value of 400,000 and then divide it by the number of years. Okay, so how much is the number of years? Okay, let us see. Hmm, okay, now since this is a component of the main machine class, so the useful life that we are going to consider is the useful life of the main milling machine. Okay? Now, since accordingly, this main milling machine was purchased on 2010 and it has an estimated useful life of 10 years. And then, today is 2016, so it is already being depreciated for 6 years. So the 6 years has expired and there are 4 years left. Now take note class that since this component is a major part of such machine or it is attached to the main milling machine, so without the main milling machine, this component will not be used anymore. So that's why we are to base its useful life to the unexpired useful life of the main milling machine. Now, since the estimated useful life is 10 years and 6 years have already expired, then there is already 4 years left for the second component. Okay, so again, where did we get the 4 years? That is from the unexpired portion of the main milling machine. Now, to compute useful life of the main milling machine, that is 10 years. The expired portion is 6 years because it was purchased 6 years ago, while the unexpired portion is 4 years. So that is where we get the 4 in the second component. Okay, and then after that, since the second component was purchased on April 1, so for the whole year of 2016, it will not be 12 months but rather 9 months only. Okay, April 1 to December 31, that is only 9 months. Now, to compute for the depreciation of the second machine, we have 2 million minus 400,000, that is 1,600,000 divided by 4 and multiplied by 9 over 12. So we have 300,000 as its depreciation. So how much is the total depreciation for 2016? we have 75 plus 50 plus 300,000, and that is 425,000 pesos. Alright? Okay, sorry. So there is a mistake as to this one. For the main milling machine, okay, it is not 750 but 7.5 million. Okay, and then 7.5 million divided by 10, that is 750 plus 50 plus 300, so we get 1,100,000. Okay, so that is for Jade Company.